All right, so
Yeah.
it looks like we're diving into the Godfather Part II today. And wow, we've got some great stuff here. Details from IMDb and a whole stack of user reviews. Like some of these go way back.
Yeah, it's really something how this film just keeps sparking debate decades later, isn't it? It seems
Mhm.
like you're looking for more than just the basic plot summary. You want to really get what makes it tick.
Exactly. We want to go deeper. Like, why is it considered such a classic? And all the different ways people see it. You know what I mean?
I do. So our mission today is to really unpack what makes The Godfather Part 2 so special. We'll break it down, look at different angles, and hopefully find some of those aha moments for you.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so right off the bat, the film's structure is unique, right? It's a sequel, but also a prequel. Michael Corleone's story, but also his father Vito's early years. That's not something you see every day, even now.
It's true. It's almost like two films woven together, and a lot of these reviews seem to be wrestling with that. Is Part 2 actually a sequel or more like a companion piece?
Interesting. Okay, so thinking about it that way as a companion piece helps us see why some people even rank it higher than the original. It's not just trying to top the first film. It's adding a whole other layer to the story.
Right. And it's doing that by telling these two stories side by side, Michael in the present, Vito's past. And one thing that really jumped out from the reviews was Robert De Niro's performance as young Vito.
Oh, yeah, for sure. People were blown away by it.
He wasn't just good, he won an Oscar for playing the same character that Brando won an Oscar for in the first film. That's got to be some kind of Hollywood record.
That's wild. Talk about stepping into some big shoes.
Yeah.
It really makes you want to rewatch both films back to back just to compare them.
Right? You should. And what's interesting is De Niro wasn't just mimicking Brando. There's a difference in how their characters use their power.
Yeah, a lot of the reviewers picked up on that too. Like Vito's rise is often seen as more of a positive thing. He's building a community, favors loyalty. Remember that line? Make him an offer he can't refuse.
Oh, yeah. Classic.
There's a sense of choice there, even respect, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Whereas Michael's reign feels much colder, much more calculated. He's taking out rivals, isolating himself. It's all about control through fear. A lot of the reviewers used words like tragic and Shakespearean to describe his arc.
Interesting Shakespearean. That makes me think of tragedies like Macbeth. You know, ambition, the pursuit of power, ultimately leading to the downfall. Does Michael fit that mold?
It's a good question. If you think about those classic tragedies, the hero's fatal flaw that leads to their destruction, does that apply to Michael?
I think so. He gets what he wants, becomes the most powerful Don, but at what cost his family, his soul? It's almost like a cautionary tale, isn't it?
It is. It really makes you think about the nature of power itself. Is it inherently corrupting, or is it all about how we choose to wield it?
No.
The film doesn't give us easy answers, and I think that's part of why it sticks with you.
Okay, so we've got this dual narrative, the contrasting characters, but I noticed some reviewers brought up the film's length, too, over 3 hours. Some found it a bit much, especially the parts focusing on Michael's business dealings.
Yeah, the pacing is definitely something that divides viewers. Some people love that slow burn, the attention to detail. They say it lets you really get into the characters and themes. Others feel it drags in places like a tighter edit would have made it more intense.
Yeah, it's like some people are savoring a gourmet meal while others just want a quick bite. It makes me wonder, is there a right way to watch Godfather Part 2?
Yeah.
Should we be catching every little detail, or can we just go along for the ride?
Well, that's the great thing about art, isn't it? That there's no one right way to experience it. But I think even those who find the pacing slow would agree that visually this film is just stunning.
Oh, absolutely. The cinematography got tons of praise in the reviews. The way it captures the feel of 1950s America, the energy of Cuba, and those flashback scenes to Sicily, almost dreamlike.
And it's not just pretty pictures. Those visuals are actually working with the themes we've been talking about, like Michael often shot in these dimly lit rooms, isolated in huge spaces. It really emphasizes that loneliness, the weight of his decisions.
Yeah, good point. And Vito, especially in the flashbacks, he's often surrounded by people bathed in warm light. It highlights that community. He builds that sense of connection.
Exactly. The visuals are actively telling the story, adding to those deeper meanings, and that's something we'll keep seeing as we get into these user reviews.
This is getting really interesting. So before we jump into those individual opinions, what's the big takeaway so far? Is The Godfather Part 2 objectively better than the original?
Well, now that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the reviews we have are all over the place. Some say it's the superior film, others prefer the original, but, that debate itself tells us something.
What's that?
That The Godfather Part II is a film that demands your attention. It's not passive entertainment. It makes you think, it makes you feel, it sparks these passionate discussions even all these years later. And to me, that's the sign of a true masterpiece.
I love that. Okay, I'm ready. Let's hear what these viewers had to say. Let's dive into those reviews and see what gems we can find.
Okay, so let's get into some of these user reviews. And I think the ones that really stand out are the ones where people have very different opinions. That's where we might find the really interesting stuff.
Totally, like contrasting viewpoints. Those are gold.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. This review from a user called Bay Harrison, this one really jumped out at me. They gave the film a 5 out of 10, pretty harsh, and they called it overambitious, overlong, and overrated.
Oh, yeah.
And get this, they said they didn't even find Vito's rise to power believable.
That's interesting. And, it brings up something we touched on earlier, that whole idea of historical accuracy. Like, The Godfather Part II isn't a documentary, right? It's fiction inspired by real events and figures. So how much creative license did Coppola have? Where do you draw the line between artistic vision and historical truth?
That's such a good question, and it's one that comes up with so many historical dramas. I think in this case, B. Harrison's reacting to the kind of romanticized parts of Vito's story.
Yeah.
The film shows violence, but it also paints him as this man of the people gaining power through respect and loyalty.
Right. And for some viewers, that might feel too simple, too easy. The reality of organized crime is much more brutal, much more complicated. Maybe Bah Harrison is looking for something more nuanced, less romanticized.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we have one viewer who thought it was unrealistic, even boring. But then we have someone like Magnolia 999 who gave it an 8 out of 10, but admitted they didn't really get it on the first watch.
It happens.
Right, they described it as an epic detective story,
Yeah.
one that really makes you pay attention.
I love that description. It really speaks to how dense the film is. All the layers of meaning in the dialogue, the visuals. You can't just sit back and watch it. You have to really engage.
It's true, and it makes me wonder, is The Godfather Part II a film that needs multiple viewings to fully appreciate it?
I think there's something to that. Yeah, on a first watch, you might be caught up in the story, the characters, the emotional impact, but each time you watch it, you pick up on new details, new connections, and that's where the real depth comes in.
Like peeling back the layers of an onion, right? Each layer revealing new complexities, new flavors.
I like that. And speaking of layers, let's look at this review from Rissi Robert. They praised the acting, the story, but they found all the jumping back and forth between timelines disruptive.
Yeah, that dual narrative structure.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword, for sure. It allows for those amazing parallels, those contrasts. But it can also be jarring for viewers who prefer a more straightforward timeline.
It's like trying to read two novels at the same time, slipping back and forth between chapters. You might lose track of each individual story.
Exactly, and I think that's what Rissi Robert is getting at. They appreciate the ambition, but they feel like it sometimes takes away from the emotional punch of Michael's story.
It's a valid point. So we've got opinions ranging from boring to brilliant, too simplistic to incredibly layered, and all of them are valid, right? That's the beauty of subjective interpretation.
It really is, but this one from Jada Dre really resonated with me. They called it a timeless masterpiece that seamlessly weaves two timelines. They seem to have found that sweet spot where the structure actually elevates the story.
That's so interesting, right? One person's jarring is another's seamless, and that's where you see the brilliance of this film. It works on so many levels. At the same time, you can have that purely emotional response, that gut reaction to the story, or you can dive into the intellectual puzzle of it all, the themes, the structure.
And both are valid ways to experience The Godfather Part II. But what is it about this film that makes it so emotionally powerful?
Yeah.
Jada Dre specifically mentioned the contrast between Michael's downfall and Vito's rise as being really moving.
I think it's the tragedy of it all. Here's Michael trying to protect his family, but his methods become so ruthless, so brutal, he ends up pushing away the very people he loves. It's like that classic Greek tragedy where the hero's fatal flaw leads to their own destruction.
And then you have Vito, who, even though he's involved in organized crime, he's portrayed as this man of honor, building community, earning respect. He represents a different kind of power, one based on tradition, family.
And that juxtaposition, that contrast between father and son, between two different eras, it creates this powerful emotional undercurrent. It makes us ask ourselves, what is the real price of power? Is it worth sacrificing your soul, your family for control?
Wow, these reviews are really making me think about the film in a new way. It's so clear that The Godfather Part II is more than just a gangster movie. It's this profound exploration of family legacy, the corrupting influence of power.
And we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more uncover, so many more insights to glean from these user reviews, ready to dive even deeper.
I mean, let's see what other treasures we can find in this gold mine of opinions. All right, let's see what other gems we can unearth from these reviews.
Yeah, ready for more.
Okay, this one from Mo22936 really stood out. They gave the film a perfect 10 and specifically mentioned how that prequel-sequel structure actually makes the film more powerful. They also talked about how the film explores the dangers of, revenge.
Yeah, that's a really sharp observation because by weaving those two timelines together, the film shows us how violence just keeps repeating itself, across generations. Vito's actions in the past directly affect Michael's choices in the present. It's like a chain reaction, one act of revenge leading to another.
And it makes you think, where does it stop? Can you ever really escape the consequences of those choices, or are you just stuck in that cycle forever?
It's a big question, and the film doesn't give us an easy answer. That's one of the things that makes The Godfather Part II so powerful. It doesn't hand us solutions. It makes us grapple with these really complex moral questions about the characters and their actions.
Right. It's not a simple good versus evil situation.
Yeah.
Even Vito, who most people sees the more sympathetic character, he's still a major player in the criminal world.
Absolutely. The film makes us confront those gray areas of morality, the compromises people make, even when they think they're doing the right thing for their family.
Okay, let's take a look at one more review. This one from Ozdenostomer. It's short and sweet. They call The Godfather Part II their favorite movie of all time. And they particularly love the juxtaposition between Vito and Michael.
That juxtaposition, as we've been talking about, it's really the core of the film, isn't it? It's not just two different guys. It's two totally different approaches to power, two different ways of looking at life.
And it brings us back to that question that keeps coming up. What's the true cost of power? Vito, in his own way, he's trying to build something based on respect and tradition. Michael's driven by ambition control, and in the end, he loses everything.
It's like the film is showing us two different roads, two possible outcomes, and it's up to us, the viewers, to decide which one we find more interesting, more tragic, more human.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what would you say is the biggest takeaway from all these different perspectives? What makes The Godfather Part II such a timeless film?
I think it's the film's willingness to really tackle these complex issues, to show us characters who are flawed, but still so compelling it doesn't give us easy answers. It asks us hard questions about family loyalty, ambition, the very nature of power, and those questions still resonate with us today.
I agree. It's a film that sticks with you long after you've seen it, makes you think about your own values, your choices, the legacy you want to leave behind.
That's what great art does, right? It challenges us, provokes us, and ultimately helps us understand ourselves and the world a little bit better.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
I think we've done it. We've successfully completed our deep dive into The Godfather Part II. And hopefully you, our listener, have come away with an even greater appreciation for this cinematic masterpiece and all the ways it continues to fascinate and challenge viewers.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and keep diving deep.